Harry's wife, manufacturing a victim. All narcissists have a victim mentality. The world is seen as a venal, treacherous place, inhabited by traitors who are there to do us ill, seeking to halt our plans, to place that knife between the shoulder blades, to thwart our plans, to get in the way, to resist what we require. And thus, in so doing, we are the victims of the treachery of the legions of people that are out there. Now, of course, different subschools of narcissists have different victim mentalities. Lesser narcissists generally approach it as, why can I never get a break? Why do things always go against me? But largely they're bombastic wrecking balls that cruise through life. They shrug it off pretty quickly. They may utilize pity plays, but they do not sit within those pity plays, yiking and crying their eyes out on a regular basis. They regard themselves as the victims of plots. They regard themselves as the victim of misfortune. They regard themselves as the victim of those people who are out to get them. But this is more likely to cause them to respond with aggression, with heated fury, not with the mealy-mouthed, shriveled-up, walnut-balled, mid-range responses. The lesser is a victim, but then will fight back in terms of the application of heated fury. Mid-rangers, of course, are where the victim mentality finds itself utilised to the greatest extent in a cowardly, passive-aggressive manner. There is some aggression as seen with lower mid-range and some targeted and polished aggression with the upper mid-range. But where that victim mentality runs the strongest is middle mid-range A and middle mid-range B. Harry's wife falls within one of those categories. Even the greater narcissists have that victim mentality, but they don't play on it. They're not interested in pity. They're not interested in the compassion. They recognize that they are a victim of the treacherous nature of appliances, but they will rise above it, conquer, and continue to move forward. But it is the middle mid-ranger that utilizes this victim mentality considerably so. And as we have seen, Harry's wife has done this over and over again, seeing herself as the victim of perceived racism, seeing herself as the victim of perceived sexism, seeing herself as the perceived victim of people just hating her because, well, she's who she is. Furthermore, her victim mentality has infected the Prince of Pink Pancakes. She has convinced him that they are victims together, victims of a racist royal family that wouldn't protect them, that would not allow them to have their cake and to eat it, and that's grossly unfair. Both victims of a tabloid press that was determined to hound them out of the United Kingdom. That they are victims of legions of individuals on social media who are nothing but those foam-flecked-mouthed, swivel-eyed bigots that want to grind them into the ground. She has a victim mentality because of her narcissism. He has a victim mentality because it's been fostered in him as a consequence of the way that she has controlled him. Another narcissist would perhaps manifest it in a different way, but with her, we're victims together. You and I, H, shoulder to shoulder, standing against this cruel, awful world, protecting our children, doing the best to support the downtrodden, whilst these awful right-wing lunatics continue to trample all over everybody else in their selfish way. We must stop them, and we will do so with our backers and supporters. She is a total victim, and as a consequence of the recent behaviour of Prince Harry, of suggesting that there were their plots and schemes against them, the planting and the leaking, although nothing specific has been detailed, it reminded me of the way that Harry's wife has done the same with regard to allegations of tabloid racism. And this put me in mind of a recent article from Fraser Myers, the deputy editor of Spiked, who wrote, Harry's wife, the manufacturing of a victim. The Sussexes still cannot provide a single credible example of tabloid racism. The narrative is now well established. Harry and Harry's wife, the first mixed-race royal couple, were bullied and hounded out of Britain by the racist tabloid press. It's a claim that has been repeated endlessly by the royal couple themselves and by their many sycophantic hangers-on in the liberal media. And it has been given a new lease of life by the new blockbuster Netflix docuseries, Harry and Harry's Wife. The second episode of Harry and Harry's Wife looks back at 2016 when news first broke that the couple were dating. Prince Harry quickly took the unprecedented step of releasing a statement denouncing the press for racially abusing his then-girlfriend. He took particular aim at the racial undertones of comment pieces in the tabloids. Meanwhile, in the Harry and Harry's Wife documentary, Harry's wife claims that she only really became aware of her race when she came to the UK and started to be papped alongside Harry. In their telling, even when the coverage of Harry's wife isn't overtly racist, it is suspiciously harsh and unusually intrusive, compared with the tabloid's treatment of past royal wives and girlfriends. All naturally because of the race element. Now, I'm just going to pause there. Let's take Harry's wife and let's take Amber Heard. They both tell lies. They both revise history. They both claim that they've been abused. But isn't it interesting that when both make these claims, if we denounce Amber Heard for it because she is a liar and that she has revised history and that she sought to manipulate and smear Johnny Depp, the comeback would be, well, no, you're wrong, but it's sexist to accuse her of those things. What has that got to do with her gender? It's to do with her behaviour. Put the same allegations against Harry's wife, and it's either sexist or this time it's racist. But notice again, in both instances, it's nothing to do with that. What about then, let's add Donald Trump to the mix. I've analysed him and explained that he's a narcissist as well. And I've analysed the evidence to demonstrate that. If I attack Donald Trump, am I being sexist? Nobody accuses me of that. Am I being accused of being racist? No. Yet he engages in the same behaviours of the other two. And the fact is, although he is a different type of narcissist to Amber Heard, who is a different type of narcissist to that of Harry's wife, the point is this. A comparison of the three and their similar behaviours demonstrates it's nothing to do with sexism, it's nothing to do with racism, and those are boring, redundant, and quite frankly, pathetic rejoinders to the allegations of their behaviour. It is the behaviour, the behaviour, the behaviour. The Spiked article continues, yet whenever Harry and Harry's wife try to give examples of this alleged racism, the narrative quickly crumbles. For all the talk of the press's endless racial abuse, the same handful of allegations of racism are recycled endlessly. Quotes and headlines are taken out of context to paint a picture that is totally at odds with the broader tenor of the coverage, especially in the couple's early days. The first oft-repeated example comes from a throwaway line in a 2016 piece by Rachel Johnson in the Mail on Sunday. Johnson writes about how the genetically blessed Harry's wife might help the Windsors thicken their watery thin blue blood with some rich and exotic DNA. Might be a bit cringeworthy, but it comes in the context of a largely complimentary piece. This is not racial abuse by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, while it may be hard to remember now, the tabloid coverage of Harry's wife was overwhelmingly positive in the run-up to and after the royal wedding in 2017. I think he means 2018, but there. As even historian David Olusoga, one of Harry's wife's more highbrow media cheerleaders, is forced to concede in his latest Guardian article, the tabloids presented Harry's wedding to a mixed-race woman as the apotheosis of a modernising process not just for the royal family but for Britain as a whole. In other words, Harry's wife's identity as a mixed-race woman did become an issue for the press, but only as something to be welcomed with open arms. The narrative of the racially abusive press also relies on the most spectacular sense of humour failure. The royal couple and their backers tend to confuse tabloid silliness and tongue-in-cheek headlines with malicious racist abuse. The most prominent example of racism highlighted in the Harry and Harry's Wife series comes from a Mail Online article from 2016 which claims that Harry's wife is almost straight out of Compton. At the time, Harry's wife lived in the nearby Crenshaw, Los Angeles. As if it really needs spelling out, the point of the Compton piece was to poke some fun at the gulf in social backgrounds between the prince and the potential princess. The humorous tone is unmistakable. It also bears a striking resemblance to the press coverage that jokingly painted Kate Middleton as a commoner before her marriage to William. While Kate's parents are multimillionaires, unlike most royal wives and girlfriends, she was not born into the aristocracy. The fact that Harry and Harry's Wife treat the Straight Outta Compton headline as the most egregious and clear-cut example of media racism shows just how thin these allegations are. You need an advanced degree in critical theory even to detect some of them. Sometimes you have to squint quite hard to see any racial element at all. For instance, Harry and Harry's Wife dredges up a Mail front page from December 2017 in which columnist Sarah Vine expresses a niggling worry about the royal couple's prospects. Apparently, we are supposed to believe the word niggling was deliberately chosen as a racist dog whistle to allude to the N-word. This is quite the stretch, to put it mildly. And of course, that is the paranoia of the narcissist, seeing things that aren't there, believing that the word niggling was used in order to convey the N-word. Ridiculous, baseless, and the rampant paranoia of the narcissist at work to play the victim. Many of the royal couple's claims about the racist press are undermined by the documentary itself. In one breath, Harry's wife claims that her race was never an issue in her life, until the racist UK tabloids came along. In another, she talks about her childhood experience of not fitting in as a mixed-race woman. And she praises the producers of Suits for adapting her character's role around her mixed-race identity. Yet, we are still expected to believe that Britain's tabloids have played a unique role in radicalising Harry's wife. Ultimately, no matter how determined the Sussexes may be to portray themselves as victims, there is no evidence of any racist overtones or undertones to the tabloid press coverage of the royal couple. We cannot keep letting them get away with these absurd allegations. This demonstrates how it is a fabrication in the mind of Harry's wife that the tabloids have been racist towards her, and that her narcissism has rewritten history to say that that is how they've behaved towards her to justify the repeated attacks upon the media and the royal family and the United Kingdom. It's often the case that the narcissist will use vagueness because they lack particularization. Why? One, because the evidence just simply isn't there and is a case of the utilization of untruths. Secondly, the cognitive function of the narcissism is not sufficient enough to allow them to even fabricate particularization in a plausible way, so they take refuge in the uncertain, the vague, and the amorphous. Harry's wife does this repeatedly, and it is a clear and obvious tenet of her narcissism that she has to manifest her paranoia by repeatedly claiming that the media has been racist towards her without ever providing any cogent, solid examples of it. This, of course, ultimately, in the hands of intelligent individuals who go to the evidence as I have taught them, causes them to realise she's talking utter nonsense. And this is just her paranoia and her narcissism at work. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.